Chicago, 2011. A cop is murdered. Police and prosecutors swear they have the trigger man. He swears he didn't do it. How far will each side go to prove they're right?
Like it's just one bombshell after another, where you're like, what?
The story of a PlayStation, a brain-eating amoeba, and the relentless pursuit of justice. Off Duty, out now. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
This message comes from Jackson. Taxes aren't something you can only think about once a year. With investments, planning for tax day is year-round. Fortunately, Jackson offers tax-efficient products. Visit jackson.com for more information on how our products can make your tax bill a little bit less painful. Jackson is short for Jackson Financial Incorporated, Jackson National Life Insurance Company, Lansing, Michigan, and Jackson National Life Insurance Company of New York, Purchase, New York.
Hello, and welcome back to the Psych Legal Pop Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about popular culture through the lens of an attorney and a therapist. I'm Brooke Brigham, I'm the attorney.
And I'm Tess Brigham, I'm the therapist.
Today we're going to be talking about the Murdaugh murders, a Southern scandal. This is actually season 2.
Yes.
We covered season 1. This is a Netflix special. We covered season 1 back in episode 39.
Mm-hmm.
And at that
Such a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
Innocent days.
Yes. Back when we were
like
just
a lifetime ago.
Young podcasters,
Yes.
just starting out.
Yes.
Yeah, well, some things have changed. I guess that season 1 kind of ended up where he had been arrested for the murder. He'd been denied bail, and he's just sitting in jail, and the trial hadn't started yet.
Yes.
Although it came out right around the time of the trial. Because otherwise I wouldn't even been watching it. It was because everyone was talking about the trial.
But everyone was talking about everything that had been going on since the time of these murders. It was when these murders happened.
2021.
When we first were introduced to this family.
Yeah, true. But it wasn't as saturated in the media as when the trial was going on. A lot of people were talking about it.
Yeah, there were from what I remember, there was a lot of flurry around the time of the murders, and then a bunch of other stuff happened. Remember, he was found on the side of into that side of the road, and then that thing happened, and then more and more stuff about him came out, and then it was quiet for a while, and then the trial happened.
So this season 2 takes us through the trial, basically, and the investigation of him, before they arrested him, and they get into the actual police work and stuff, which was only kind of alluded to in the first season. So anyway, it starts out with this 911 call where Alex, however you want to pronounce it, he calls 911 and he says, "My wife and son have been shot badly." And then he says, "This is a cold-blooded murder." And already the way he's talking is weird.
Yeah.
Who says that? This is a cold-blooded murder.
Well, is it then when they show you the body cam footage of the police officers? And it was really interesting because the police officers come up to him. He's, sweating, panting. And they say, "Well, what happened? What's going on?" And the first thing that came out of his mouth was, "Okay, well, this is a long story. My son was in a boat accident.
There was a boat accident, yeah."
And it's just a little bit like, what, huh?
It's like, that's not what they're asking you.
But it's just like no one's mind goes there.
No.
You'd say, "Oh my God, I just came home and, they're shot." Your mind wouldn't even, I don't know if I saw someone dead, I would assume that would make that leap of the boating accident and all of that. Especially since he didn't have enough time to think about it.
Right. He also tells the police that he's been getting death threats or revenge. He thinks it's like some kind of revenge killing or something.
Yes.
So he's already got he's putting his theories out there to the police.
Yes. And so this is about very early on, we meet a lot of people. So some of the same people from the first season are back, but then we meet a lot of new people, and mainly the people that are involved in the case. The prosecutor, the
district attorney,
the prosecutor, the defense team, which they never have any formal interviews. And we meet Becky Hill.
Yes, Becky was the kind of reliable narrator of the season.
She's the clerk of court of, is it Colleton?
Colleton County.
Colleton County. And she says, I'm elected official, maintains what goes on in the courthouse.
Yes,
so she's very...
Yeah, she
took this very seriously.
Yes.
This case and her role in it. This was a big deal.
Yeah, she's all business.
Yeah. And so we learn a little bit about how this same courthouse is where the Murdaugh family has been prosecuting cases for years and years and years. So much so that there was a picture of, was it a picture of Alex's grandfather?
Yeah, I think it might have been the first Randolph Murdaugh.
Which would be his grandfather.
Or great-grandfather? Great-grandfather, I think. Because his dad was like the third.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Great-grandfather. They had to remove that.
Yeah.
Because it's a little odd.
Yeah, the big picture on the wall of the courtroom
where
they're all doing all this.
So, yeah, and we learned that this was obviously a very high profile case, and there were lines around the building. They could not wait.
Oh, the jurs?
Oh, well, the jurors and everybody, like across. I mean, that's
to get into the courtroom.
To get into the courtroom, it was the hottest ticket in town.
And then there's this very bizarre scene where O.J. Simpson weighs in.
Yes. I was like, oh my God, they got O.J.?
Well, they show a clip.
Well, I think he's on his own social media.
Right. He's talking about it, or someone asks him about it. And he says, well, people ask me what I think. Really? People are asking you what you think, O.J.? And he says, I don't know why, but, I wouldn't be surprised if he beats it. And it's like, well, yeah, OJ, it worked for you.
Yes.
So it could work for anybody, I guess.
Yes.
Play your cards right. Except Murdaugh made the huge mistake of actually testifying. So that sealed the deal.
And I don't know. I mean, what's so interesting about this that is different than the OJ case was the fact of social media and the technology and phones, because truly the smoking gun, it was
a cell phone.
And what was recorded on that.
It was actually like a Snapchat video.
Was it Snapchat?
I think so. I believe so.
Yeah. And so that's the part that is so interesting, is maybe if there wasn't this technology, maybe if Murdaugh didn't take the stand, maybe if things were different, because that was the other thing too, was just the fact that, obviously the changing of the clothes and some of these other things with videos. I mean, when did cops start wearing body cam? Because I don't remember cops having body cam videos.
Well, I think that's
forever
been since Rodney King.
Okay.
And all the recent, I mean, as police brutality was, getting exposed more and more. It's always been happening, but as it's been exposed more and more, the body cams started coming in. But yeah, the DA said that at one point, he said, we don't really have enough to charge him because, there's this issue with the timeline.
Yeah.
And then they found, once they got into Paul's phone,
it was Paul's phone.
They'd had it the whole entire time somehow. And they were asking Alec, well, do you know his password? And Alec's like, no. And finally, someone just started trying to they put in his birth date and boom, it opens.
Yeah. Why didn't anyone start with that?
Yeah,
don't you start with someone's birthday?
It was months later.
Yeah.
When they finally were able to get into his phone and get that digital footprint. Yeah. Can you imagine if the O.J. Simpson, back then, if they had this? Because the whole case was about the timeline, and did he have time to, go to Nicole's house and kill them and drive back to Rockingham and all that kind of. I mean, you could have tracked
his phone,
his every move.
Yes.
So, Yeah, it's getting harder and harder to get away with these things, OJ.
I'm telling you, I really wonder about criminals and if they're really pissed off about all this phone technology because we truly had no idea before cell phones where people were.
No.
You just had no idea. No idea. And so that's the part that's so crazy about the world that we live in today. It's almost kind of like now all of these criminals, instead of driving up and down highways looking for hitchhikers, it's like they're lurking inside, chat rooms and other places, hunting for people to kind of come out of their, out of somewhere. It's unreal.
Yeah, and like in the Boston Marathon bombing case, we cover that too.
Yes.
The reason why they were able to catch the bombers was because they had so much video footage from all the stores and restaurants that were lining the streets. And they were able to identify them, saw them, put the backpack down, and then turn around and walk away. Yeah, if that camera footage, all that closed circuit TV footage hadn't been there, it would have been a lot harder.
Yeah, that's another big, big difference is once upon a time, we did not have all these cameras.
No.
The fact that if you watch a Dateline now, they can track cars. Like the car is going down here now. Now let's go down the street and find another store. Okay, now we're going to go down here. I mean, I will say that I know a lot of people had issues with all of these cameras coming out, but it is very effective for law enforcement.
Yeah.
I mean, I know people feel like you can't do anything anymore without being watched, but
well, if you're not doing anything wrong, then nothing to worry about.
Yes. So we learn that they start to get into, what was happening for Alex and the family prior to the murders. And that, people are saying that the catalyst for all of this was the boat case. That, Paul was in trouble for, he was out on bail. He was waiting trial, right, for the Mallory Beach murder, which we talked about in the first season. Paul, Alex's son, was drunk, got into a boat, and there was an accident, and one of his good friends died, drowned, and so he was waiting for that, and
this comes up later in, I don't know, I feel like it was the last episode. There's 3 episodes. Who was it who said,
Morgan?
It comes out that, Paul, who, yes, is out on bail, awaiting trial for a boat accident, gets caught on a boat.
Oh, that's right.
Like loaded with alcohol and people trying to take off in the, on the river or whatever. And he luckily was stopped by the enforcement people out there. But how stupid this was like a week before the murder.
Yes.
How stupid.
Yes.
And so I think that was one of the things that really put Alex over the edge was that, oh my God, how fucking stupid can you be?
Yeah.
How dare you? This is so stupid. And then he was having, all kinds of financial things were coming crashing down. And so I think it was a lot of things.
Yes. And so we also meet this woman, Blanca. And Blanca was the former housekeeper, and she originally met Alex in the late 90s. She did some translating for him, and Maggie was needing some help with the boys. And so they asked Blanca to come. And so Blanca and Maggie developed this very close friendship. That Maggie... it's funny because I feel like we got to know Maggie a little bit more on this episode, this than we did before, because the way she was portrayed in the first season was sort of this kind of cold wife. And I think it was nice to see Blanca because I think Blanca had a very different view. And Blanca is taking care of Bubba, who's Maggie's dog. And you just got a different view of who Maggie was. Before, I got the sense that she was just this mom of this wealthy man that didn't seem to want or care about parenting
and
that
she
much or whatever.
Very warm.
Yeah, but apparently she was a bit warm. But I thought this was interesting. So Morgan, who's Paul's ex-girlfriend, tells a story about how I think it was Maggie that told Maggie was telling Morgan that apparently Randolph, I don't know which Randolph it was, 1, 2, or 3, that Randolph's wife wanted a divorce. So what he did was he wrote an obit in the and published it in the paper, basically as a warning.
To scare her.
And Morgan saw that as a way of Maggie sort of saying, is this what you want?
Right. Warning her.
Yeah. Is this what you want for a family? So anyway, they keep going back and forth between these interviews and, what's happening in the trial. And
it's very all over the place.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to talk about because it's all over the place. But then we get back to the SLED officer, the special agent David Owen, and they're playing the prosecution wanted to play these videos first, this body cam first of the first interview that Alex did in the car with, and to get his side of the story, basically. Like, and also, tell us what you know.
Why did they put him in the car?
Well, yeah, all of these were
because there was a camera in there.
Yeah, I see this all the time in Datelines and other shows where they do these interviews always in the car, and I think it's because there's a camera.
There's a camera and it's quiet, and you could get better sound. Yeah,
private.
Yeah, and like he's asking the police if they're dead. He's on the phone with is that his brother Randy Randolph? I don't know who it is. And anyway, he then gives the police this very detailed timeline of what he did that day, and he's doing it very calmly. Doesn't really seem very upset. And whoever he's on the phone with, I wrote down Randy, but I'm like, who's that? Is that one of the Randolphs? And he said, well, it's official. They're dead. And then he tells the guy on the phone too, he's like, the police say it's probably retaliation. And it's like, no, the police did not say that. I mean, he's just like planting his story all over the place as he wants it.
Yes. Well, he said, from what I understand in that first interview, he basically told them, I came up to the property. I knew something bad had happened. He checked on Paul, saw Paul was down, picked up Paul's phone and then put it down, and then saw Maggie. And then he went right into the boating accident and negative PR. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, well, because Paul was, this is one of the things they were talking about. They wanted to lift up Paul's body to see if the firearm was underneath him,
because
to see if it was a suicide or not.
Yes, because one theory was that maybe he killed his mother and then killed himself.
Right, they thought it was a murder-suicide. But what had happened was, so he had his phone in his back pocket. And after he was shot, he fell, face forward. And then Alex came over and took his phone out of his pocket, but then didn't put it back in the pocket, just placed it on top of his jeans, on his, the pocket on the back of his jeans. And one of the officers was commenting on that and said, I don't think he put that phone back on his behind. Because, he's dead.
Yeah.
He can't, reach, take the phone out, and then just put it back on top of his butt.
So did Alec hear one of the officers say that and think, okay, I gotta make sure this was part of my story?
No.
Pick up the phone and put it down?
No, he didn't know anything about it. This was the body cam footage.
Because I could have sworn that, this is what my notes say, but I could have sworn that he said in that car, I picked up the phone and I put it down.
Oh, he might have. Maybe, because I think they maybe questioned him about it.
Yeah.
I don't know, because he said, well, I did go over and I checked his pulse.
Yeah, that's right.
So, they were just trying to see, they were just kind of it seemed a little sloppy. Like, they were just sort of confronting him with facts and things, and then he would come up with some explanation for it.
Yeah. Well, and so he kept sort of floating out this idea about the boating accident and maybe people are retaliating. And then we see all these people that we see, like Blanca and some of the other people that know the kids that were part of the boating accident. And, all of these people were saying no one involved in that boating accident would be guilty of hurting Paul. Like none of these, who are you pointing a finger at? Like, this isn't Mallory's parents. Like, that's what people were saying. Like, none of those kids, are going to come back and shoot Paul and his
and
mother.
Maggie. Yeah. What's the point of killing Maggie?
So, and so then they go through. So the shooting was on June 7th, 2021. And so then this is when I guess the police really start to piece together what is the timeline of that day. So we see that Maggie gets up in the morning at 6:37. She talks to Blanca. Blanca hears Alex in the background. Blanca gets to the house an hour later. Alex comes out and immediately she says he seemed really jittery. He looked tired, like he just threw on his clothes, disheveled and tired. And he just threw on some clothes and maybe like a jacket over it, almost kind of like something he would wear on the weekend. And then, because he was going off to work.
He said, she said he had on khakis, blue shirt, and a blazer. And that comes back later to be an important detail.
But that she had to straighten out his collar, and he was like, "Oh, okay, great." And that they knew that Alex was going to go. He said, "I got to go to work and work on the boat case," because there was a civil case, I believe, with Mallory Beach's parents, right? And the big thing was, this was another reason why it feels like maybe he felt rushed to have to do this soon, because the boat case and the civil case, what was going to come out was Alex's finances. And that was a big problem because his finances were a mess. And then we meet someone, Jeannie Seckinger, from this law firm. And that around that same time, that same day, she confronts him because they found out that Alex was stealing from the law firm. And she confronted him on $792,000 being missing.
But he was also he was putting these funds in Maggie's name, trying to hide assets. And I don't know if that was, I guess, to hide for the civil case or I guess.
I mean, I think that, and that's the thing, right? This whole idea of, the state of mind that he was in, it was like things were really tumbling down. Like he had so many things happening all at once. And he's also a drug addict. He has an oxycodone problem. And so he's also not quite in his right mind, running around trying to clean up all of this. So during the time that Jeannie is confronting Alex, at first he's very rude to her. Like she's like, "Hi, I just want to talk to you." And he's obviously on edge. And then he gets a phone call right in the middle of their conversation about his father being terminal and that he's dying. And so she's like, "Oh my gosh, we have to," she stopped. "I'm so sorry. This is terrible." And he indicates to her, like she got the sense that he was going to leave and go see his father, but he never leaves the law firm. He gets this call and he stays.
Yeah. And
so that's one of the other things, but he never went to the hospital that day. That's where people thought he went, and he wasn't there.
Yeah.
So, because Jeannie said that at 4 p.m. her phone rang and it was from him asking her these questions about his 401k balances. Yeah. And she was like, "What, you're still here?" Surprised that he was in the office.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out why. I feel like the urgency to, move these assets around had to be because he knew he was going to kill Maggie. And he thought that somehow, if I'm trying to think of this, I don't know if South Carolina is a community property state, but trying to think, like, if he just transfers these things to her, doesn't necessarily solve the problem, but I don't know, maybe he's not in his right mind. He might have been thinking, well, I'm going to transfer them to her, but then when she dies, they'll come back to me and I'll be able to hide them in some way. I don't know.
Or maybe blame her. I don't know. Could I blame Maggie for stealing money? I don't know.
I know
it's a long shot.
I know it had something to do. I'm sure that it had something to do with the fact that he knew he was going to do this that day, because Maggie wasn't even at Moselle. She was at Edisto Beach at their beach house, and she wanted the family to come out there for the 4th of July. So she was working on getting the house ready. And then Alec calls her up and tells her and Paul, who I guess was with her, to come back to Moselle. And so they did. And Blanca cooked dinner and, left, and then never heard from them again.
Yeah.
That was that. So he's summoning them back. Yeah, I don't know how long he had been planning this, but it seemed pretty hasty.
Yeah,
actually.
that's the part that I think is so odd about all of this, is in some ways you can see the run up to it and the fact that more and more pressure was mounting and he needed to do something. And it's like this idea popped in his mind, but he did not think it through at all, or barely, or I don't know. I mean, maybe he did. Maybe he just didn't really get the fact that video was going to do him in, or that his son is constantly shooting. Because it's the two, you know what it is? It's Paul's two videos. It's the video of him in the tree with the clothes. And it was the video, and it was the second, we'll talk about that when we get there, the second infamous video with the dog
video. Yeah. I also think a lot of it too is just the fact that this is a man who has never had to be held accountable for anything, thinks he's untouchable, because he has been.
Yes.
He and his entire family have lived their lives being untouchable, privileged, above reproach. I mean, it's just like, that was his mentality. And then you mix in with that, like, addiction and this desperation
and embezzlement
and the money and everything all like coming on him all at once. And I don't think he is that smart.
No,
he's not that smart.
I don't.
He was never very successful. I don't think he was a successful lawyer. It didn't seem that way to me.
Yeah.
Again,
because he obviously he was stealing a tremendous amount of money. I mean, from his clients and from the firm.
Right.
And so it's a little bit of, wow, $8 million, your addiction is, I don't think his addiction, it was all for his addiction. I don't think he was a very good attorney.
No, he wasn't making money as an attorney, and he was living a lavish lifestyle. And, who knows what I have.
Yeah.
Who knows?
So then it becomes, the last of episode 1 is Blanca saying, she expected a call from Maggie. She got a call from Maggie every night, and there was no call. And so we go to episode 2, which is March 2023, and we see the auction of Alex Murdaugh's things.
Yeah, this was very macabre. I mean, this was like,
and why were people so fascinated and wanted to go? Apparently, Maggie collected turtle lamps.
Yeah,
I guess she loved turtles.
A dozen of them or something. She collected turtle shells. Yeah, I mean, what is this stuff?
Yeah,
and what gives, again, I'm just thinking, who's auctioning this off and why? I mean,
well, I think they have to auction everything off right for the estate, and he's got to pay all these people back, right?
Well, but this is not his. I mean, this is her. I mean, her estate. I mean, I guess, again, I don't know. There's a lot of legal questions that I don't know what the, the marital laws are there, but I don't know. It was just very weird. And
so wait,
people were giddy.
Hold on. Keep going. They're in South Carolina.
They're in South Carolina.
So let me look this up. Is Carolina a what? A community property state? Hey, listen, that was the first thing that came up. I think they're listening. No. South Carolina isn't a community property state. Marital property is divided by the court in an equitable manner as described above. Okay. Dower and courtesy are common legal law concepts that have generally been abolished in the U.S. today. Dower is a wife's life estate and her husband's real property upon his death.
Yeah, those are antiquated concepts. But so I guess this is her estate. And so whoever's handling her estate is, and I mean, Alex isn't coming back. He doesn't need any of this stuff.
So can I ask you a question? What's the difference between community property and equitable division? They're saying, no, it's not a community property state, but it is an equitable division state.
It just means that the court has the power to divide the assets equitably, whereas in California, it's a guaranteed 50-50.
Got it.
Or any community property state, you're guaranteed 50-50.
Oh, okay.
But, if it's equitable, that just means the judge has the power to say, oh, well, to one party, you came into this relationship with this and you contributed this and you contributed more. So you're going to get 80%. And the other person's only going to get 20.
Yeah. So it must. Yeah. So I guess it's because I got the sense that the auction was like everything from all of their homes and everything. I thought they were,
It really just looked like a bunch of tacky knickknacks, quite frankly.
And then we meet Dawn.
Oh, God.
Murdaugh.
She was weird.
Gosh. So she was thrilled to go to the auction. So two of the things she bought a vacuum with a full bag of stuff in it. She's so thrilled. And she was like, ooh, but I haven't opened it yet. So
she says she's afraid of what she might find in there. And I'm like,
a dead body? Yeah.
That's gross.
And then she also had a camera. I guess she got a camera that was in the case and there was still film in it. Mm-hmm. Whoever did this auction, not very thorough. They didn't clean anything. They didn't open anything.
No,
they didn't do anything.
Like, here's a vacuum.
We're not going to bother with anything. And so there were a bunch of pictures on there of the family, I guess, and
family vacations
and all of that at a simpler time for their family.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Blanca, then we get Blanca. Blanca gets a call from Alex the next day. Now, this is the part I didn't quite. So he then calls her the next day. Does he then tell her about Maggie and Paul?
Yeah, he says they're dead.
And then he says, can you go and clean up the house? Because we're going to have a lot of people coming to our house. And she sort of blindly kind of like, okay, goes there. And she thought it was so odd because she went to the sink. There are no pots and pans. All of the pots and pans and food were basically transferred from outside into the
because remember, she made them dinner.
So, but did she put it in the fridge before she left? No. So it was on the stove. She said it was on the stove.
Yeah, she said, I opened the refrigerator. I saw the pots and pans with the lids on them in the refrigerator. She's like, they never do that. So obviously they didn't eat the dinner.
Yeah.
What's his face? Alex just put the pots in there.
And then this was the part that was so weird. Maggie then goes up to, Blanca goes up to Maggie's bedroom and finds Maggie's like 2 top and bottom pajama set laid out on the floor as if you were laying it out like to wear it. But it's on the floor in the middle of the room. That I've never understood. What is that?
She said she didn't know. She said Miss Maggie would have never done that. Mm-hmm. So it was like, again, Alex is thinking he's staging something, that it makes it look like, I don't know what Maggie
Did the pots make it look like they ate? Was that to make it look like, they ate
the pots,
food?
He just tried, he didn't know what to do with them and he just stuck them in the refrigerator to make it look like maybe he didn't want it to seem like they never ate dinner because
that was part of his timeline.
Okay. They were supposed to eat dinner.
But then what do you think the nightgown was?
I don't know.
Like if that's him staging something, what is he staging?
Don't know.
Okay. All right.
Well, she said it was weird because, she just, she's walking into a crime scene. She had to drive right by the kennels. She said nobody even stopped her, questioned her. And that's the thing, the police they're not treating this like your normal crime scene. In fact, in that scene in the car where they're questioning him, he kind of starts to cry and they all like start comforting him. They're like patting his shoulder saying, oh, it's okay. And, they're just out there. Alex is coming and going. Blanca's coming. They're not questioning her. She walks right in. She said she was kind of scared. Like she didn't know what she's walking into or what's going on. In the meantime, the police are out there just going through stuff, going through the garbage. They're just doing their thing. But there's really no urgency. But the one other thing was that apparently, so the family was Alex's brother and family. They were allowed back on the property pretty quickly. Like they all saw the crime scene. And then apparently, I guess the state will clean up blood and blood from a crime. But the Murdaugh said no. Yeah, that was so weird. The brother said, Paul said his name, said he wanted to be the one to, clean up Paul's brains off the ground. And it's like, what the hell is that? Like, why? Why are you doing this? And then they showed that.
It's almost this feeling. I want to find out what the Murdaugh brother, what's his name? Because it's not.
Is it Randy? Is he a Randolph?
Oh, there's a Randy. He has a younger brother, John Marvin. John Marvin Murdaugh.
Was that the guy who was there?
And I guess he is Randy Murdaugh, both that they had seemed to was not called to testify. I wonder if that's his nickname.
Maybe.
Okay, hold on. This is younger. There's an older brother named Randy. And then is John a different brother, or is that what they call him? Oh, okay. So he must be the middle. So Alex is the middle. So it seems like Randy's the oldest, Alex, and then John.
Okay.
And I guess John,
he's the one who was always in the courtroom with Buster.
I was going to say, and I think that is John the one that's now, well, Buster, I don't know how old he is. I think he's an adult, but I think that's sort of the family he's with now or staying with. I don't know.
Well, yeah, and then they show what they called the playroom or the gun room. And that looks like a dark and scary place.
Yeah.
And that they call it the playroom. I guess there's like a pool table and stuff in there. But they had a lot of guns.
There was a lot of guns.
A lot of guns.
So the big thing was the defense. One of their theories was they wanted to push this idea that there had to be two shooters, which is very interesting because it doesn't mean that Alex wasn't one of them.
Right.
So it's a little bit like, well, you're not really helping your guy here.
Yeah. Not the brightest bulb on the tree. Really isn't.
Well, this was his defense team. So they came up with this, two shooters. So the prosecution went to this guy, Kenny Kinsey, who's an expert. And they wanted to know, is that plausible? Like, if this is one of the things they're going to throw at us, is this plausible? And this expert found that, no, it's not plausible. They believe how it happened was that there were two separate guns, that Paul was the first victim, that he was in this feed room. So this kennel, they had tons of dogs. I don't know if it's for hunting or just because they have all that property.
Hunting dogs. Although they didn't really see that many dogs.
But the kennel's huge.
Yeah. But what he was saying, what the forensic guy said first was that, if there were two shooters, they sure didn't do a very good job. They didn't carry it out very efficiently because of the way that the evidence, bears out. It wasn't an efficient shooting. You know what I mean?
Yes.
If you had two people, you could just sneak up on them, boom, boom.
Yeah.
You're done. But because Alex had to kill two people who were only, there's one of the reporter, the woman was at the Washington Post.
Yeah, I have that. How
Valerie,
many steps?
She said it was like they were
12 steps.
12 steps apart. Maggie and Paul were about 12 steps apart when the shooting happened. So, it was chaotic because Paul gets shot first, and then of course Maggie's running towards him.
Yes, which is also again shows that these people knew. Like, there were no defensive wounds, meaning they knew who this person was. Plus, if you thought about it, if you're Maggie and you're seeing a stranger just shot your son, you would be like, oh, crap. And you would turn around and start running in the opposite direction.
Right.
And so that would mean that she would be shot in the back. But obviously she was running she's running towards them. So that's why she was shot very hastily, like first in her leg, then in her, she had a lot more shots because I think he was like, whoa, wait, I got to get my other gun.
Wait,
Hold on, Maggie. This wasn't part of my plan.
Well, and luckily she tripped and fell or something. Or did she fall because of the
I thought she fell because of the shot. Because Paul was the first victim. He was in the feed room. So I think apparently he didn't see the first shot.
Right. His back was to the door.
Yeah. And so then
no, he was shot in the chest. He was shot in the chest first, and then he somehow took a few steps. He stumbled a few steps forward
and fell.
Got to the edge of the door. It's a very small little room, kind of like a closet. And then he gets to the edge of the door, and then Alex sees him and goes, "Oh shit! Like he's moving. He's coming towards me," because he just shot him point blank in the chest. He stumbles forward. and then Paul shoots him in the head, and then he falls flat on his face.
Yeah.
And so and Maggie's seeing this.
Yes.
And she's running towards Paul. And so, so then Alex frantically shoots her like
with a different gun.
I don't know how he got his other gun so fast, but he did. And he shot her like a few times in the legs and the stomach or something.
Well,
and then she fell. And then he shot her like just point blank in the head again.
Well, yeah, he let's see. So she was shot with a rifle and she was going towards the feed room. So there were 3 non-fatal shots in the thigh, I think leg and stomach. And then she fell down. The fatal shot was when she was down. And so I think he shot her again. Then she's dead. And then he walks around above on top of her head, the final shot.
Shoots her again.
That's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he was probably surprised by the fact that Paul didn't just, die with one shot. So he's like, okay, well, I guess I better, yeah.
But no, he did not plan this out because if you have 2 different guns, he's shooting Paul. And then, I wonder if Maggie was farther out. I think maybe he didn't think that Maggie was going to run as fast or got as fast as there because obviously it was very clumsy of him. Like, but he really didn't think it through at all.
Well, of course not.
So then we go back to the courthouse and we have the defense calls. We see, because we don't really see the prosecution lay out their case and then the defense lay out their case. They didn't cut it that way, the way the documentary is. So now we're to the defense calling Buster Murdaugh. And apparently that was Alex's birthday weekend. It was Memorial Day weekend and before the shooting. And Buster's like, oh, yeah, it was a normal weekend, just like any other weekend.
Well, yeah, he's trying to show that they were just one big happy family.
Yeah.
And why would he then kill these people a week later?
But Blanca's like, that's not what's happening because of what you said. It was Memorial Day weekend that Paul got in trouble again, where the DNR stopped him because he had alcohol on the boat. And quote unquote, Alex was going to quote unquote take care of it. So that happens Memorial Day weekend. Things are falling, I think that Alex, like, my money stuff's coming out. I've got this case for this other thing. This dumb kid keeps drinking and getting into this boat. And this is this brilliant plan he came up with a week and a half later.
Yeah. And then weirdly, Randolph III dies the day after the murders or the next day.
Yeah. And so, and I think they have I think they were all buried on the same day. I think Maggie, Paul, I think they had a memorial service.
They had a triple funeral.
Yeah. I mean, unreal. So, yeah.
And then then they go back to, this is sort of skipping around a little bit, but they go back to how, this is before the trial, but months after the killings, the police, they're telling people there's no danger to the public. Don't worry. But we don't have any suspects that we can name because they just didn't have enough evidence against Alex to do anything. But the public is just like, what is going on? They're very confused. But anyway, then they show the testimony of Michelle Smith, who was his mother Libby's caretaker. And Alex tried to use her as an alibi. And that was the night, apparently, like, right after he shot them, he went over to his mother's house and he stayed. She said he was acting strange, fidgety. He sat down with her, watched a TV show for about 20 minutes.
Because he goes there. Of course, the whole thing's really so odd, right? Why would you go visit your mom at 9:00 at night?
Yeah, she was asleep when he got
she was
there.
asleep. And I think most people would be like, oh, she's asleep. Okay, I got to go by. But then he sits down. And I think she thought that was odd.
Yeah.
Shelley thought that was odd. Like, he sits down, stays there, I think, for what he feels like, she'll think this is 45 minutes and then leaves. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the next day, he went back over there and he said, if anyone asks, I was here for 30 to 40 minutes. And so she just kind of, I don't know if she thought it was going to come to this or what she thought. But, when it came time to testify, about that. You know, she told the police no, like he was here like 20 minutes. And she said she was scared.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't blame her because it's like these are powerful people. But, you know, at this point, Alex doesn't really have anyone who's going to like stick with him at this point, you know, whatever. But yeah, she was scared, but she told the truth.
And then we see that apparently that summer, so this all happens in the beginning of June. So we then see over the next 2 months, Alex and Buster are just living their best lives. Yeah. They're going to boat shows, they're drinking, they're, you know, going out. And so then Alex comes back and has, you know, after months of this, and we see an interview he did on August 11th with the police where he comes back. He's thinner, he's tanner. Yeah. And he's like, hey, you have any suspects? What's happening with this?
Can I get an
What's
update?
Happening with this little case of ours here? You know, do I have any suspects or anything? What's happening? Who are you going to blame this on? And again, they ask him about the timeline. And this is by this point, right? They have the video. I think they have the video of the tree. They have this video that Paul took of. So before he shot either of them, he was out on the property, like hanging out with Paul. They were doing some stuff, and Alex
They're just riding around. They were riding around on like one of those God, what are they called? Those
little
outdoor
ATV
vehicles.
Yeah,
and they were shooting at stuff, doing some target.
Oh, that's right.
Target practice.
He shot. Well, that's what Alex said, that they both went off and shot. I think. Which is, you know, a good thing to tell people if they find gunpowder residue on your hands or something on your clothes.
But they were fooling around. Yeah, there was a video of like Alex like trying to pull up a tree, and they're laughing. And
in that video, he's wearing khaki pants and blue shirt, long blue sleeve blue shirt. So now this video appears, and so the police are asking him and said, you know, when you called us from 911 and we saw you're wearing shorts and a t-shirt. Mm-hmm. But this video is earlier in the day and you're wearing this. What happened? And he really, I think, I couldn't tell. I mean, he seemed stunned. He seemed a little stunned and a little like, huh?
He said he couldn't remember if he had changed or when, or he couldn't remember if he showered. And again, this is a day like the worst day of your life.
Yeah.
And you don't remember. I can see on a normal day, if someone asked you like 3 months ago on a Tuesday, what time did you change your clothes? Mm-hmm. But I mean, he would have had to remember this.
So that interview is August 11th. Then on August 20th, Alex calls poor Blanca and asks her about his clothing and says, does she remember what he was wearing? And she was really like, you know, she's scared too. Yeah. You know, these people that they keep circling around, you know, and I think it's very interesting that he keeps picking women of color and that they're in some sort of employment of his.
They're
to kind of like, you know, what was I wearing and what was this and what was that? Trying to see.
Yeah, like you're going to back me up,
fishing.
Right?
I feel like he was fishing for Blanca. Like, would Blanca lie? You know, would Blanca lie for me?
Yeah, and say, "Oh, I saw him come in at this time, and he took a shower and changed his clothes." Yeah, and remember, he asked Blanca and her husband to move on to the property.
Yeah, that I thought was so weird, and I was like, "Why?"
I think again, he's trying to like have some control over her, or of some sort.
Yeah,
to help him with his alibi. I don't know.
I mean. The other thing, too, was that, I don't know. I mean, it's no longer a crime scene. I mean, maybe, I don't know.
Also, one thing Blanca said, too, that I thought was interesting. She said that that Maggie never went to the kennels. And she never left the house after dark.
Yeah.
She said she was a very scared person, scared of the dark. Apparently, it's really dark and scary out there.
And that property, I didn't realize how big it was, but they show you this aerial view. I mean, it seemed like no wonder they have to take a car to go to the kennels. So it's not like the kennels are right over there. I mean,
it's like half a mile away.
Yeah, this is the country. Yeah. Like this is the country. No neighbors, no nothing. Country. You know?
Yeah, they one of the things they do when they're out puttering around on the property is look for wild boars. There's wild boars like out there
Yes.
running around.
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and the only thing that's lit up is the house.
Uh-huh.
You know, everything else is just pitch black.
Yeah. Because there's no
lights.
or anything
No.
like that. I mean,
Very
so crazy.
scary.
Yeah. So then September 13th, is that the day? I'm so confused. I don't know if this is, I see they also had something on September 4th, and then they had something else that was September 13th. But which was the day? Oh, I think that the 4th was when Alex goes to this guy, Eddie Smith, and they call him Cousin Eddie.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically, Cousin Eddie has this sort of mystique around him that he's some kind of drug dealer and he's, you know, shisty and he's maybe a killer for hire kind of thing.
He's the cleanup guy for the Murdaughs, and they call him the fourth Murdaugh. What a distinction.
Yeah, I just wrote down this guy's a piece of work, this Eddie. I mean, whatever he is, I don't quite believe everything that Eddie's telling us. I think the truth is somewhere in between. I think that he did do a lot of illegal stuff for Alex, knowing that it was illegal and knowing it was shady and knowing all of this. And, but I don't think he was this huge kingpin kind of person that people were making him out to be, or that Alex was trying to make him out to be.
No, he was not. I don't know why he started doing all these things for Alex, but probably because Alex threw a little bit of money to him here and there, and it was more money than he was going to be able to make or whatever. And so he just did it. And one of the things he had him do was launder money through writing him all these checks.
Okay, so this I did not understand. Maybe I just don't understand money laundering. So he's writing checks from his account to Eddie. It says Eddie for random amounts. The amounts aren't like $13,000. It's like $12,494.27. So he's writing it to Eddie. And so is he saying that when he does his taxes, is he saying, well, I'm paying Eddie
for some
fees?
Yeah,
so
probably.
Is he laundering the money through is this the law firm or is this the?
I can't remember if the name on the checks I think it was a personal account, but I'm not certain because they showed the face of the check. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I don't fully.
It's a very weird money laundering thing.
Don't really understand it myself. But yeah, he was writing him checks, and then he'd deposit it into his account, and then write him a check back, and then he would deposit it as being for something different. You know, he's just using it as saying he's paying for something that he's not really paying for, saying he's received money for something he hasn't really received money for.
Oh, got it. And that's what he's trying. Okay,
yeah.
Just seems like an odd way to learn, like through one person.
Yeah, one person
means like how much. I can understand if he had like a store that he could launder money through. Right, I mean, that would make a lot more sense than just giving this one human being over and over and over again. So that's what they figured out. He wrote checks to him for how much? For $500,000, 700,
2.4 million.
Oh my God! So
it was like
400
and some odd checks, and he's being. At the end, where they do the little chirons of it said that he's currently being, I think, prosecuted for it.
Yes, Eddie is. Eddie's in a bit of trouble.
Yeah.
So I guess so Alex goes to Eddie and wants to meet him at the funeral home, which is interesting. And, says, hey, what Eddie claims is Alex said, can you shoot me? Basically, will you shoot me? And then apparently Eddie says, this is very interesting. Eddie says to Alec, what happened? Like, what was going on over at Moselle? And Eddie says, like, what happened at Moselle? And Alex's response was, things just got fucked up. I mean, there's nothing more telling than that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He can't even.
I have no idea. I feel terrible. It's like, things just got fucked up.
Yeah, it was weird.
Which then made me wonder if that wasn't what was supposed to happen. Do you think that it's possible that he really only meant to shoot Paul and that Maggie? No, because he asked Maggie to come. Why ask Maggie to come?
Yeah. And why the two guns?
Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess he knew he was going to kill both of them. I guess he figured out, I've got to kill Paul so that this lawsuit will go away. And I've got to kill her because I've laundered a bunch of money, or I've now put a bunch of money in her name. And
I just think he just didn't want to deal with her wrath when she found out that, they were broke.
Oh, that too.
Because I don't think she knew.
Oh, no, I don't think she knew.
I don't think she knew about the financial stuff. And it was going to come out that basically they were broke. They were going to have all their assets taken from them. And everything was just going to blow up.
Yeah.
And yeah.
He's like, I think I'll just start over.
Yeah. I start a new family.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. Worked for OJ.
That's true. So apparently Eddie said, no, I'm not going to do that. Are you insane? No. And then, so that was on the 4th. And then on the 13th, there's a 911 call where someone, I thought this was really interesting. The 911, did you see that they played a couple 911 calls? Mm-hmm. And one of the calls was that from a woman who said, do I have it here? About it being like, this seemed like a setup.
I thought that all happened on the same day because
that he approached Eddie and then all of that happened. Oh, I don't know where I got they just showed two very close dates in September. I'm like, what's this happening? What's this?
I don't know. Because Eddie says that he fired a shot because Alex, I think, was just acting manic.
Yes.
And he fired a shot in the air just to scare him or something. And then Alec fell backwards and
hit his
head or something. But he wasn't bleeding. No one was shot. And it was funny because he says, he says, well, I wasn't shot. He wasn't shot. No one was shot. Nothing. I didn't do anything wrong. So I went home. He figured he was in the clear.
Yeah.
And then Alec got in his car and he pulled away. And then I thought that Eddie said he followed.
Yes, he followed him.
Oh, and then maybe I think that's when he fired the gun. I don't know.
Yeah, Eddie's
storytelling is not very good.
Well, I think from what I remember, Eddie talking about it, so that they had this conversation at the funeral home. Eddie said no. He said, fine, I'll just do it myself. He gets in the car. He goes down the street. Eddie follows him. Mm-hmm. Something gets him to stop again. Alec gets out of the car, comes over to his car, and that's when Eddie pulled out the gun, threw the shot. He falls over. He hits his head.
Yeah.
So, but I still think that happened on the 4th. And then I think that a week goes by, a different day, Alex like, okay, today's the day. I'm going to shoot myself.
Because they show him in the ambulance.
Yes.
And he does have blood on him in various places. And it looks like he's kind of scraped up and whatever. So I don't know what Eddie did not try, according to Eddie, again, who knows? He claims he did not try to shoot him. I don't know if he faked a shooting. So I remember when the story first came out, they reported that he was shot in the head.
Yeah.
But clearly he wasn't shot in the head because that was not part of this documentary. They never said anything. It looked like he, I don't know, like got someone to just rough him up or beat him up and put some blood on him.
Oh, I thought he shot himself, but it wasn't fatal.
I don't think he has the nerve to do that.
Well, yeah. So that's out. So he was, quote unquote, changing his tire, and he claims that someone came along and shot him. And then he was really trying to indicate there Eddie Smith. And then we get a little bit about the backstory of Eddie Smith and how, he was Alex's drug dealer, which basically I think meant that he probably just picked up scripts for him. Or I bet you anything that Eddie probably went around to a lot of different hospitals. I think this is one of the things that he probably did for Alec, which is I think that Eddie went to a bunch of different hospitals crying of pain. What people do, drug seekers do, which is go to this hospital. Okay, emergency room. I hurt my foot. Can you give me 30 oxycodone? Which they don't do anymore. I mean, they're so tight with it really now. But this was back in 2015, 2016. And I think that was one of the things that he did. I think he kind of like he med seeked for him and maybe bought some for him illegally and kind of was the middleman for all.
But he talked about going out to these little airports and stuff and picking stuff up.
Oh yeah. Well, I think there was a lot of that stuff that he heard. He remembers Alec had a something that he wanted Eddie to take with him, and he said he could hear it shaking the pill bottles. So maybe he was ordering this stuff online, maybe, but I think basically he used Eddie as a middleman to like go and do stuff for him.
The unsavory things.
Yes, because the thing is that he had a massive problem. You have to have so many pills a day. If you have an oxycodone habit like that, like that's why I'm saying, I'm wondering, I don't know if you had him go around and pill seek. I'm just thinking like, I think this is a lot of what Eddie did was like just some of these unsavory things as a way of kind of keeping the drug habit going.
Yeah. And he also said that one of the reasons why he claimed that he did not like doing this check cashing stuff and he didn't want to do it anymore. And Alex kind of like made a veiled threat about his daughter.
Yeah. Your daughter still work at such and such place.
She was going to school, and I thought he said USC, and he said something like it's not a very good neighborhood. And Alex made it sound like he was gonna get someone to attack her in this bad neighborhood or something.
But I think that's the other part of it too. Is I think this is how powerful this family was, and how much people were just scared. So Eddie's like, I can't get out of this.
They can make people disappear.
Yeah. One thing that was interesting was this. Did Eddie say this, or did Morgan, Paul's ex-girlfriend, say this about how everyone knew he had a problem? Like it was well known that he had a problem, that there were drugs hidden all throughout the house. Everywhere there were drugs hidden, and that Maggie knew something was up. And so I do wonder if that's another reason why.
Just
if she was already kind of at a point with him of being pissed and just what is going on, and our son's falling apart. He's in all this trouble, maybe she was saying things to him like, if you got to get clean, or you keep using drugs, I'm going to leave you. Maybe he felt like this was easier than a divorce.
Right.
Yes.
But
the defense did try to blame him for the murders.
To blame who?
Tried to blame Eddie for the murders as well. That was also one of the defenses. They alluded that maybe Eddie killed them. Like this was again.
That's pretty desperate.
Yes.
Okay. So then this is 10 months after the killings. The police are basically saying, God, we don't have enough evidence to charge him. They finally figure out the password, which was to Paul's phone.
If it took him, I'm sorry, but 10 months to figure out that maybe we should try his birthday on it.
Yeah. This is a real gap in whatever. But anyway, okay. So I believe I had heard at the time it was a Snapchat video. So Paul is keeping this dog for his friend, Rogan Gibson. He has, it's like a new puppy, and I don't know why he was keeping him for him.
I think Rogan was out of town.
He was out of town or something.
And he needed someone to watch him.
So he was trying to FaceTime with him to show him something on the dog, but the signal out there is really bad. So he decides to take, I believe it was a Snapchat video.
That's what the youngsters do.
That's what the young kids do. They snap each other. So he goes into the kennel and he's filming the dog and trying to show him there's some spot on the dog's tail. And you can clearly hear Alex talking in the background. And, ding, ding, ding. Alex supposedly was never there.
So the video was shot at 8:44 p.m. That's why it's so important, because the two of them, they determined that they were killed at 8:49.
Because all their phones went silent for the last time.
They believe that from 8:44 to 8:49 that there was no phone usage. And so they believe that this is when they were killed. So this blew everything out of the water, and they played this in court, and apparently like a silence fell over, because it's so crazy. I don't think I'd ever seen the video before, but it was really fascinating. Like you hear Paul talking, and then you hear Maggie, and then all of a sudden you hear, come on, Bubba. And you're like, oh, that's him.
Yeah.
And then you hear him again, and you can clearly hear him in the background talking. And so that's when things weren't good.
Yeah. And then a couple of minutes later, after this video was sent, all three of their phones, the activity stopped completely. And they were talking about how these people were constantly on their phones all the time. And so that was the smoking gun, was this video.
Well, yes. But the thing is that not according to Alex Murdaugh.
Of course not.
He took the stand, which is always, just unreal.
Yeah.
It was, and that was the whole thing. I was like, are you this delusional that you think people are this stupid?
He is. Also, too, here, I also blame his lawyers. I mean, I know if your client is, intent on testifying, and they just won't listen to you, there's nothing you can do. However, he was on the stand for several days and I watched some of it, and he was doing these long narrative talks, which the lawyers should have stopped him. And maybe they tried, maybe because, you're only supposed to just, answer the question that you're being asked and shut up. And he's just going on and on and on, just digging himself a deeper. Why were they not telling him at every break, shut up, just answer what's being asked. Don't go off in these long soliloquies. And he just buried himself. And not like I think out the gate, the minute he got up there.
I think if he didn't testify, I think he would still be convicted, because it really was. I think if I was on that jury, it would be the 844 and the fact then, because his basic thing was that he said, he goes and takes the stand and says, he says, well, I lied. I was really there. But and then they try to ask him, like, no one ever asks him. They say, why did you lie? And he basically says, well, a tangled web we weave.
Yeah.
And that was it.
They asked him later to explain what that meant.
Oh, yeah. The judge did.
And
at the sentencing, the judge did.
Yeah. But even during the trial, I think the other attorney asked, well, what does that mean? And he said, once I told a lie, I had to keep lying, which is true. So yeah, those were his first words out of his mouth on the stand. He admits he's at the kennel. He admits he lied to the police.
And then he just felt like he had to keep going.
Where do you go? Yeah. I mean, where do you go from there?
So, and I thought that who was that? Was it the district attorney of the state? Who's the person that is who's the district? Is it the district attorney for a county? And then who was that other guy?
Well, the head guy the guy with the short, the dark hair,
with that wore a suit.
He was kind of like the higher up. He was the district attorney. The other, the two lawyers who were actually the trial lawyers were just trial prosecutors who worked in that office.
Yeah. So, and I thought he brought up a very good point, which is if you are innocent and you are at those kennels at 8:44, and then you learn that your wife and son are shot at 8:49, what's your first response? Your first response
should have been there.
Oh my God, I was there. I should have been there. What could I have done? Oh my, it was so quickly. And so to lie, that did not help him at all.
No. I mean, he was doomed. Because he's so full of shit and just so far gone.
So we do see the jury gets to go on a trip to Moselle to see
what was this terrible idea. And this was the defense who wanted this.
I thought that was weird too. I'm like, why does the defense? And I think the prosecutors were like, great, let's take a trip.
Let's go. I mean, how is that going to help you? What were they trying to show?
I do not know.
They never explain that.
No. And mainly what we see is this all through this reporter who talks about how she was one of the people that got to go. There are very few reporters that got to go. And she was one that got to go. And that she really, and that they weren't even watching what they were doing. She really wanted to see how everything lined up. She wanted to see the distance between where Maggie fell and Paul. And that's where she figured out it was 12 steps. And, you see people there at the kennel taking pictures of everything, but we don't know what the jury learned, we didn't see much more from that.
No one ever talked about what they thought about it. They only had that one juror, Gwen, who they interviewed.
Well, and then apparently, so on March 2nd, 2022, the jury starts to deliberate, and apparently the defense team heard that the jury wanted a monitor to see some exhibits. They want to watch some videos. And the defense took that as a positive sign. I'm like, no, they want to watch the video they want to watch
your client, what your client was lying about.
Yes.
They wanted to make sure they heard it right. before they convict.
Videos.
Yeah.
It's the 2 videos that do them in.
Right,
You know, it's like watch. All you need to do is watch that one video plus the changing of the clothes video, and you're done for.
Yeah, those defense lawyers, I couldn't tell if they were delusional or if they were just trying to do the best that they could with what they had.
I think they were, I don't know. I think it was a little bit of both. And I think maybe they were also good old boys too, that were just kind of like
there's no way this guy can get convicted. This is a Murdaugh. He can't get convicted.
Yeah. So then less than an hour later, they reached a verdict and a silence fell over the crowd. And then we learned from, what was her name again? I forgot her name. Who was the nice lady we met in the beginning? Becky Hill. We learned about Becky reading she was very nervous about having to read the verdict, but she did it. Yes. It was interesting, though, because I thought we meet Gwen, who's one of the jurors, and she talks about how, she was like, when I got on the jury, it was like, okay, let me see. She came in with this open mind, which is what you're supposed to do, of like, okay, let's see, okay, I'm here to see it. I don't have any preconceived notions about how this should go. And then she said she knew pretty much that he was guilty. She knew what her vote was when they went to deliberate, but apparently there was one woman. It was one, I mean, she kind of indicated that she was a younger woman that just could not wrap her brain around the idea that a father would kill his son and wife, that someone would do this to their family,
kill their own family.
And I feel like that's what Alex was banking on a bit when I think this, in his back of his mind, he's like, no one will ever believe it was me.
But first of all, that's the dumbest statement from this juror, because it happens all the time, every day.
I know.
Most people are murdered by somebody they know and somebody who was could be a family member. I mean, that is the most common thing. And it's like, do you not watch Dateline?
No.
Do you not watch like these documentaries? I mean, yes, people are killed by their family members every single day, multiple times a day. What are you talking about?
Well, and I think the part that's really hard, and it's always, and I'm with, it's a huge leap, is when husbands kill their wives, which happens all the time, that I can believe, but it's just something about killing your children.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, and I can kind of understand that sort of, if it was just the wife, maybe I could get on, I'll get on board with you, but maybe there was something about that of like, how could he possibly kill his son? No, that couldn't be it. How could this be? So,
well, the son was going to ruin his life, with this boating accident. And it was a bridge too far for him.
So then we see the March 3rd. He gets the sentencing. And this is where the judge has his time to talk and talking about how disturbing all of this is. And I thought that was interesting. That's when he asks Alex, like, what did you mean when you said, what a tangle web we weave? And that's when he said, when I lie, I continue to lie. So we got 2 life sentences consecutively. So everyone, was this Becky Hill that said then once that happened, they thought everything was going to be quiet, but it opened up a lot of new questions. And one of the new questions, and maybe this is for season 3, is did Alex have help? And everyone thinks there's another person, Morgan. A lot of they also interviewed Mallory Beach's. His name was Tony.
Yeah.
He was Mallory Beach's boyfriend, and they interviewed him as well. And those 2 really believed. They both believe there's someone else involved. And I was like, because they never found the guns, right?
Right. Never found the weapons. And also they asked Blanca if she thought someone else was involved. And she said she didn't feel comfortable answering that question.
Yeah. So it seems like there might be someone else involved. And then, we just see the end. We see Blanca take Bubba to go visit Maggie's grave. And then we learn that, Alex is appealing his sentencing.
Well, good luck with that.
And Eddie is facing charges for cashing 437 checks for $2.4 million. So I actually and that was it. And I went online and I looked around to see like what's happening with Murdaugh today. And I was so I read this thing that apparently someone who was housed with him like went to a reporter and talked about it and said that basically that he's getting a lot of special treatment. That he's getting a lot of special treatment in prison. The guy tells this story of how, like, I guess prisoners now all get tablets, but when you get a tablet, you know, it takes a long time to get the tablet and it's old. And he said mine had like a cigarette butt, you know, a cigarette put out on it, and it's, you know, not that great. But apparently Alex got one brand new really quickly, like handed to him. That
Didn't he get in trouble though for doing something?
Yes, he got in trouble for two things. So he's got some internal disciplinary charges. One is an abuse of privileges, and the other one was using an inmate's PIN number. So I think obviously he still has money. So that's the other thing. I thought this guy was flat broke. I thought he had nothing to his name, but apparently he's got a lot of money. And they were saying that, like, one of the most coveted things in prison is a cell phone, and that it can cost up to $2,000 to get a cell phone. And then apparently he that he has all this money that he will go, that he has, like, you know, you can spend up to $150 at the commissary. He'll go and spend $150. And apparently, like, hey, you want a bag of coffee? Will you sweep my floor? Hey, do you want this? Like, he's got a staff. Right. He's got people that are doing a bunch of stuff for him in exchange for commissary goods. He's getting all of this. He's getting all of this special treatment because I'm sure that these guys at the prison are also good old boys and probably Murdaugh, and I'm going to get in with this guy. And this guy said Alex is running around acting like he's running for frat president. He's using money in prison to be catered to, and he's still using drugs, which I would totally believe too. So apparently Alex is still the goddamn narcissist he's always been, and he's just sitting in prison, and he's in a special little area where, you know, where police officers are and child abusers and other people like that, that have to be in a special section. And I would think, you know, but apparently, and then there was some whole thing about the phones were down and there was no communication, but they would let Alec use the phones. I mean, it was just,
I
went
can
on
imagine.
and on and on.
I can imagine. Yeah. And he's, you know, his family still has money. They're always going to give him money, you know, that John Marvin. And what I want to know, I was going to look this up and I just forgot, spaced out about it. I want to know, what is Buster doing? Like, what is
find out.
What is his life? You know, post-trial. I mean, I'm sure he's doing just fine financially.
What is Buster? What was he doing?
Well, remember,
what was he doing before?
That's right. He got kicked out of law school, didn't he? Or for plagiarism.
Okay, here we go. Let's see what is happening with Buster. So he's 26. He's been leading a relatively quiet life amid his family scandal. Let's see. Here's everything we need to know. Buster believes that his father's innocent.
Well, okay.
Buster's name has been connected to a classmate's death. Okay, we knew that from Stephen Smith. Yeah. That was in the first season. He denied that being part of that. He filed a police report against the media. On March 4th, 2023, the New York Post included a photo of Buster inside of his home in Hilton Head as one of their stories.
They still have a home in Hilton Head.
Yeah, so apparently...
he's fine.
Yeah, he was present for his father's sentencing. Let's see. We know that. He was kicked out of law school. We know that. Tell us something new.
I think he's just kind of hiding out.
So, yeah, he went to Wooford, and then I guess he left after the deaths. And he lives with his girlfriend. So he reportedly resides in a condo with his girlfriend, Brooklyn White, on Hilton Head Island in South Carolina. Brooklyn, with two N's, works as an attorney at Avaletti, McRae, and Wilthrow Law Firm. Do you know that one?
Girl, no. Girl, why are you... You're smart. Why are you like...
She purchased the condo a month after the murders.
Oh, she purchased it.
Purchased the condo in 2023.
So he's just living there. He's just freeloading. Why Buster would you date someone from this family? I mean, why? Yeah.
Buster helped his family reach a settlement in Mallory Beach's death. So I guess... So they reached a settlement for a significant amount of money, which removed Buster and Maggie's names from the case. Let's see. Yeah, this is back to this other guy. What is Buster's net worth? Let's see. It's unclear what the Murdaugh family assets look like right now or what Buster's net worth might total. The condo Buster and Brooklyn live in, which she purchased in 2021, is reportedly worth about $180,000. So
What?
Wait a minute.
$180,000?
How in God's name can you purchase a $180,000 condo? I thought Hilton Head was really nice.
Yeah, it is.
Well, we
I
should go
don't
to
know.
Hilton Head
That's
because
South Carolina real
$180,000
estate.
is nothing.
Well, and they keep saying she purchased it, so that might not even be his asset. I'm sure he wants to keep his assets unreachable. Oh,
Well, here we go. It says Alex Murdaugh sold the family estate Moselle to Maggie for $5 back in 2016. Lawyers who are now in charge of Alex's assets are trying to avoid the sale, claiming it was fraudulent.
Yeah, I'm sure what's going on with, we'll have to look this up for season 3, but yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff going on with her estate and all of this. It's a very tangled web, I'm sure.
Oh, it's a tangled web we weave.
It is.
When we are
when first we practice to deceive.
When we are a privileged person who just decides to take all that privilege and do nothing good with it, but decides to, because this whole thing was about his own reputation. Because the thing was that these two did not have to die. They didn't.
No.
He didn't have to kill them. So basically, he only killed them not to help them or help anything. It was all to preserve himself, his life,
and his money,
his reputation, his perception.
Because they were liable. Because Paul was only like 16. Right?
He was 19.
Oh, he was 19. Okay, so so why would they be? I guess it's their boat. I don't know.
I think their boat, their kid.
Yeah, but he's not a minor. I don't know. The point is, this man is deranged.
Yes,
and
apparently living his best life.
In prison. Who knew?
And women are writing him. Apparently,
I'm sure.
So, in a couple years, we'll see a wedding. Someone's gonna...
Oh, God.
Alex is going to marry somebody.
It'll be a jailhouse wedding.
Yeah. Trust me, I'm sure he could probably get conjugal visits the way these people
Sounds
treat
like
him.
it.
I'm sorry. I don't think apparently this one guy who was there, he said, listen, the conditions are deplorable. He says it's awful there. It's terrible. It's awful. But in an awful, awful place, this guy is getting the best treatment you can get, it sounds like. So... Anyway.
All right. Anyway, if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. We are, let's see. We are still covering Sister Wives season 18. It comes out on Tuesday. So if you like Sister Wives, subscribe. Well, subscribe regardless, because we're going to be talking about other things, not just Sister Wives. We're coming up with what else we want to talk about. We've done a couple documentaries. Maybe we'll keep doing that. But please subscribe. And also, if you enjoy the podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating and review. And you can check us out on Instagram and TikTok at PsychLegalPop. And we will see you next time.
Yeah, spread the word. Tell people. All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Give me a mountain with lots to do. Give me the sunshine, give me a dew. Give me something simple and true. All I need is sunshine and a cool, refreshing Mountain Dew. So give me my good friends, give me a dew.
Grab some friends and an ice-cold Mountain Dew today.
Mountain Dew.